It is one of the most daring and devastating Ukrainian attacks on Russian troops.
At 14:30 hours in a contested area of eastern Ukraine, a routine reconnaissance mission turned into one of the most intense drone engagements of the week. A Ukrainian Shark D surveillance drone was circling above a ruined bridge, watching a slow Russian convoy move toward the crossing. A truck, several soldiers, and a 152mm howitzer were making their way through broken terrain, and it looked like a perfect opportunity for an ambush. But the drone was not just observing. It was also being detected. Every time the Shark transmitted video, its signal acted like a beacon across the radio spectrum. And somewhere beyond the hills, Russian equipment was listening, waiting for exactly that type of signal. The Ukrainian operators knew the area was protected by 3 layers of Russian electronic defenses that had already stopped more than 30 drones in recent days. The first threat came from a modified counter-battery radar. This system normally tracks artillery shells in flight, but the Russians had adapted it to track drone control signals. It would take a bearing on the source of the signal. One bearing was useless, but 2 or 3 from different angles could pinpoint the operator's exact location. Artillery would follow minutes later. The drone team understood the danger, so they transmitted in tiny bursts and hopped across more than 100 frequencies per second to stay below triangulation thresholds. They knew that even a few seconds of steady transmission could reveal their exact position. So every movement, every signal, and every adjustment had to be made with extreme caution. Then the situation escalated. The Shark's thermal sensors detected a Russian Orlan reconnaissance drone moving in from the north. If the Orlan found the operators, the Russians would not need radio tracking at all. They would simply attack the position it marked. The Ukrainians had a choice: keep watching the target or hide themselves under thermal blankets and temporarily lose visibility. They chose to hide, knowing that even a single mistake could expose the entire team. Before they covered themselves, they needed to alert the FPV strike team 4 kilometers away. Sending information directly would expose both positions at once. Instead, the Shark dropped a tiny encrypted data packet on a frequency the Russians were unlikely to monitor. The packet contained the convoy's location, speed, wind conditions, and the ideal attack route. The transmission lasted only 0.3 seconds, which was too short to detect, and gave the strike team everything it needed. It was a quiet, hidden message sent in the middle of hostile airwaves, just enough to keep the mission alive. Before launching, the FPV team took a final moment to prepare. The pilot checked the battery temperature, listened to the motors spin up, and made sure the warhead was armed correctly. The crew stayed low, scanning the sky for any Russian scouts that might be nearby. They knew this strike had to be perfect, because once the drone was in the air, there would be no second attempt. The operator steadied his breath, reviewed the route one last time, and waited for confirmation. When the green light flashed on his controller, he pushed the throttle forward, sending the drone into the air. At 14:45 hours, TATE FPV pilot powered up his drone. It had a 7-inch carbon frame, a shaped charge mounted on the nose, and a full battery. The target was only 4 minutes away. The drone flew low, using fallen trees and rubble for cover, and the video feed came through clearly at first. Then the image suddenly broke apart with static. A mobile Russian jammer had been activated. It blasted electromagnetic noise across multiple frequencies, overwhelming the drone's signal like a jet engine drowning out a whisper. The feed degraded from clear video to grainy footage with heavy lag. The operator switched to a backup frequency outside the jammer's main range. The signal improved briefly, but within another half kilometer, it weakened again. That was when the operator realized the Russians were using several jammers at once. Portable units were likely hidden in trenches, and a larger system was probably operating from further behind the front. The drone was flying into an electronic trap. The drone carried an AI module as a backup. The AI could recognize vehicles when the operator couldn't, but it required at least 2 seconds of clear visual contact within a range of 400 meters. The drone had to get extremely close before the AI could take over. With the video almost gone, the operator switched to flying by instruments only. He relied on heading, speed, and altitude to stay on track. Then, for a single frame lasting less than a second, the video flickered back. It showed the bridge and the convoy exactly where the operator expected them to be. That single frame confirmed he was still aimed correctly. The video disappeared again, and the drone continued forward without visuals. At roughly 3 kilometers from the target, the signal returned for a moment. And with it came a new threat. A Russian interceptor drone was above him, already diving into an attack angle. Because it had the advantage of altitude, it had more speed and energy than the Ukrainian drone. The closing speed meant the operator had only a few seconds to react. The Ukrainian drone banked sharply to the left. The Russian drone overshot and had to loop back, but it still held the advantage. Every sharp maneuver drained battery life, and the Ukrainian drone was heavier due to its warhead. The interceptor climbed again to regain height for a second dive. The Ukrainian operator made a risky decision. He cut throttle entirely, making the drone drop rapidly toward the ground. The Russian drone dove through empty space where it expected the target to be. After 2 seconds, the operator restored power carefully to prevent a crash. The interceptor was forced to climb again, and now both drones were at nearly the same speed and altitude. They circled each other for several seconds in a turning fight. The Russian drone began gaining the advantage because it was lighter and had a better power-to-weight ratio. To break the cycle, the Ukrainian operator used a vertical reversal. He pushed the drone straight upward, traded all his speed for altitude, and let it nearly stall at the top. At that moment, he cut throttle again, spun the drone 180 degrees, and pointed it straight down toward the interceptor. The Russian drone committed to the intercept path, but at the last second, the Ukrainian drone rolled away and escaped. The Russian drone shot past without connecting. By the time the interceptor corrected its path, the Ukrainian drone was racing toward the bridge at low altitude. The entire encounter lasted 18 seconds, but in that time, the FPV drone lost almost a third of its battery. Voltages were dropping, and the target was getting closer. Ahead on the bridge, 3 Russian soldiers were already in position. They had heard the drone dogfight and expected an incoming attack. As the FPV approached, the first soldier fired short bursts from his rifle. One bullet tore through the drone's frame and severed the power lines to a motor. The drone lurched to one side and the flight controller struggled to balance thrust. The second soldier stepped forward with a shotgun. His shot sent dozens of pellets spreading across the drone's path. Most missed, but 2 struck the drone. One destroyed another motor, and the other damaged the battery casing. The drone was now flying on 2 motors with reduced power and speed. The third soldier attempted to fire but could not lower his weapon far enough because the drone was flying at barely more than a meter above the ground. The FPV skimmed forward, damaged and unstable, losing power every second. With only a few meters left, the AI finally locked onto the target. Battery voltage had fallen to a critical level. At 14:49 and 47 seconds, the drone struck the ammunition section of the truck. The shaped charge pierced the storage compartment, igniting 8 artillery shells at once. The explosion blew the truck off the bridge. The howitzer and vehicle fell into the river beneath. Smoke climbed high into the air, while the Shark D drone recorded everything from above. The mission succeeded, but the engagement showed how unpredictable and brutal modern drone warfare has become. This strike showed how much can change in just a few minutes. It also proved that even layered defenses, jammers, and interceptor drones can fail when operators stay disciplined and adapt under pressure. For Russian forces, it was a reminder that every movement can become a trap, while for Ukraine, it showed how creativity and precision can turn a simple FPV drone into a battlefield equalizer. Make sure you like, turn on your notification bell for more, and subscribe.